So if you're the Packers, it doesn't matter to you what Aaron Rodgers wants at this point. You just want to move on. This is the bed that the Jets decided to make. They have to sleep in it. Meanwhile, let's just say the Packers aren't doing the same things in the bedroom, figuratively speaking, that they used to do once upon a time. And at this point, if you're Aaron Rodgers, don't you want to go somewhere where you're loved? Don't you want to go somewhere where you're appreciated? I think it'll be equivalent of marrying a younger woman. Not that I would know anything about that. Not that I have any designs on doing that. But you brought up the divorce.
For example, what do you mean?
You brought up the divorce. You said divorce. You put divorce in your feet, so you took me here. It's like you get divorced, and then you get with a younger woman. Why? Because she energizes you. She sees like, oh, I like a seasoned man, whereas somebody else looks at you and says, oh, you're just old. I don't want to get too explicit right now, but they're doing things for you.
No, you're great. No, you're doing great.
The missus just doesn't do anymore.
Keep going.
You know, and
keep going.
You know,
you're doing great.
Introducing you to things. Introducing you to things that you didn't know was out here in these streets. The Packers are like, you ain't got it no more. You don't do it for us no more. We going to get a younger guy ourselves. Meanwhile, the Jets are like, hey, I think you know what? I got something for you. Let us show you the love that you've been missing. Let me stop. Let me quit while I'm ahead. Charles Robinson is standing by.
You're ahead. You're so far behind.
Just a couple of seasoned men sitting around talking.
Panda watch. I'm sorry, Rodgers watch. The mood is tense. I've been on some serious stories, but nothing quite like this. I mean, we got people playing on people's phones, sending out mysterious cryptic tweets. We got Rodgers playing with our emotions. We got wish lists out this mug. But Michael, you have an obvious point, as you put it, an obvious point that you should have made yesterday on Aaron Rodgers. As we continue to wait, it's going into another day. Yesterday, we got a tweet from my man Trey Wingo that it was done. What's the obvious point that you didn't make yesterday?
Listen. Hey, man, first of all, I want to make sure, because I think if this is year 16 for me, you're coming up on year 18. Is everything good at the crib? After yesterday's quite definitive, for show purposes, it was a tour de force. I don't know how it played at the crib, but I just want to make sure everything's good. You're still married?
We're good. We're good. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Happily. Yes, I'm good.
All right. So
Thank you.
I think I started you. I sent you down that road because I said sometimes a divorce is necessary, but you don't really want it to happen. And I use Aaron Rodgers as an example. And what I forgot to mention is that he holds all the cards. So when you said, hey, so what? So what? Green Bay's got to do what they got to do. The Jets have to do what they have to do. What we always have to keep in mind is that Aaron Rodgers can blow this whole thing up because he's got more power than the Packers do. The Packers have to kiss his ass. They have to continue to do that because they need to trade him. Because if they don't trade him and he says, no, I ain't going nowhere. Now they've got to either accept him back or find another trade partner for him. And I don't know about you, Mike. Outside of the New York Jets, I don't see a lot of obvious trade partners for Aaron Rodgers. Or
I don't think they exist.
Aaron Rodgers could take the unusual step of walking away and retiring. And the reason I put this on the table, I know Trey Wingo said the deal is done. Sometimes, like with Rodgers, he's a peculiar personality. Let's put it that way. He's a different type of dude. And I get the sense that he loves attention so much that he will take it to the point of, hey, figuring out how far it can go and then pulling back. It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if he says, nah, I'm good. I don't think the deal is done. I don't think he's got a deal.
No, I'm good. I'll stay with Green Bay and make $60 million. I'm good. Or no, I'm good. I'm walking away and going to a darkest place forever.
Neither one would surprise me. As a matter of fact, I would go if I'm doing the pole position thing. I'm gonna put I'm good staying with the Packers. It's still in the 20s. I'm putting that like a 25% chance.
Yeah. I mean, look,
I know what the Packers want. I know what they want. But are you sure? Here, let me say it another way, Mike. Let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask you this question, and then you take it.
All right.
We know what the Packers want.
Right.
President Murphy made that very clear. talking about my
Right.
man in the past tense. He's still alive.
Right.
You know
Right,
what I mean?
right, right.
You know, talking about
Aaron
him in the
Rodgers
past tense.
rolling over
I
in
know-
his grave. Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I know what the Packers want. Are you
Okay.
sure? Are you sure you know what Aaron Rodgers wants? I don't.
Oh, God, no. No, nobody does.
All right.
Oh, I thought you were going to say what the Jets want. Oh, God, no. No, of course
Oh, I know
not.
what the
Nobody
Jets want
knows
too.
what Aaron
Oh, I
Rodgers-
know what the Jets want too.
Yeah.
I know what the
right.
Packers
Okay.
want. I know what the
Nobody
Jets want.
knows.
But this
Nobody
key
knows.
figure.
I don't know if Aaron Rodgers always knows what he wants, and that may change from day to day. What we do know is he wants attention, and he receives attention, deservedly so. I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, is this dude really worth all this? And I was like, yeah, he kind of is. Especially if you're the playoff-starved, quarterback-starved New York Jets. He most certainly is.
Yeah.
All right.
Super Bowl
I hear
starved.
you. I hear you on the. We ain't worried about Super Bowl in New York. Like, just get to the playoffs. Super Bowl is gravy. I hear you on the leverage point, and you're right. And you and I have had different iterations of leverage debates quite frequently over the last 2+ years. So
I've enjoyed them.
I hear you.
They've been helpful.
Always. And we've switched positions quite a few times, depending on the quarterback, depending on the player, depending on the circumstances. So I hear you on the leverage in the form of being able to blow up their cap or just blow up the spot, as it were. But just because he has that, I have one of those too. Just because he has that leverage, I don't know that he necessarily, talking about what he wants, I don't know that he wants to exercise it or apply that pressure, because a trade is in everybody's best interest. So, yes, the Packers want to turn the page
including
to Jordan
his?
Love. Including his. The Packers want to turn the page to Jordan Love in the way that they once wanted to turn the page from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. We already know the Jets are thirsty for Aaron Rodgers. If you're Aaron Rodgers, do you want to go? I mean, you already felt some kind of way when they drafted old boy. Now, do you want to go and wait? I've been waiting to use this word in a sentence in the sports context. Do you want to go and be part of their entanglement? Do you want to be a part of an entanglement with a younger Jordan Love? Is that what you want to go back to in Green Bay? Whereas New York is rolling out the red carpet, and come to find out, Aaron Rodgers has rolled out a wish list, which apparently they're going to grant. What would you like, Aaron Rodgers? Well, give me old ass Randall Cobb. Give me my man Alan Lazard. Okay. Give me Mercedes Lewis. And give me broke ass Odell Beckham. I'm sorry, I don't really
Hold on a
that.
second.
I'm rooting for Odell to come back. But I'm just saying, it's like, okay. They told this is worse than the last quarterback they told, if you come here, you'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now they're telling this quarterback, it ain't tricking if you got it. Like, you got it. You want it, you got it. You can have whatever you like, straight up T.I. You know, stacks on me, Patron on ice. We can pop bottles all night, baby. You can have whatever you like. That's what they basically telling Aaron Rodgers. So if you're Aaron Rodgers, why wouldn't you want to? When you talk about, to answer your question, what does Aaron Rodgers want? He wants to be worshipped. He wants them to bend the knee.
Yes.
He wants them to give him whatever he wants, and clearly they're willing to do it.
No, man. No. Sometimes you just want to see if they'll do it. I think he's that kind of dude. I mean, he's asking for it to see if they'll do it.
We can really have that conversation.
Right? Oh, I know.
Closed mouths don't get fed. Sometimes you just gotta ask.
That's right.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, I was wondering. Pardon me.
I tell you, man, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if he really wants to play for.
That's enough of the innuendo.
I know. I don't know if he wants to. I don't know if he wants to play for the Jets. But a more mainstream example for you coming to America fans. Okay, bark like a dog, hop on one foot. What else will you do? And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing to the Jets. I'm not sure he wants to do it because, Mike, think about it. I mean, just common sense. Unless he also wants to be the assistant general manager or make Joe Douglas the assistant general manager. He wants to be the GM because he's already asked for
Green Bay. Remember this is what he wanted in Green Bay.
Think about this, though. Mike, they've already got on the roster the offensive rookie of the year. Okay, Garrett Wilson. They got Garrett Wilson on the roster.
Yeah.
They got Corey Davis on the roster.
Untapped Elijah Moore. Untapped Elijah Moore.
They got Elijah Moore, like going into his, third season now? Second or third season?
Yes,
I like Elijah Moore. I like him. Ole Miss, right? Like him. Okay.
Yep.
So that's three guys. 3 guys. How many teams keep 7 receivers? So you got to act, okay. So you got them 3. Then we got to bring in Odell Beckham Jr. We got to bring in Lazard. We have to bring in Randall Cobb, but now we're up to 6. You got what you want, control to 53? What else can we do for you?
I think so.
What
that
else would you like
your question yesterday. But that answers your question yesterday. Yesterday you said, will he have his run of the place in New York? I mean, I don't know how receptive they've been to this wish list, but if they are, in fact, negotiating with Lazard, if Cobb is on their radar, he just wants, to come with his friends. And then Odell, I don't even know what Odell wants in terms of money. I don't even know if they can afford Odell Beckham. You're right. Hey, this seems excessive.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't care.
But
Aaron Rodgers, y'all can afford it. New York.
It ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Everybody eats. That's where, and I respect it. If he can get it out of him, so be it. Which makes me wonder if what's taking so long is strictly the teams and the compensation. Because if you looked at it as you said, Rodgers has the leverage. The Packers are probably looking at it like, we have the leverage in negotiation with the Jets. Because I wonder what done means. Trey said it was done. Does done mean that the teams have agreed to compensation? Does done mean that Rodgers has made a decision? What does done mean? What I's need to be dotted? What T's need to be crossed? So maybe what this is a matter of the Packers being like, nah, we ain't paying $40 million out of his salary. You must be out your rabbit ass mind. That might be what the Packers are saying. Or if you want us to pay X amount of dollars of his salary this year, you need to come up on that draft pick. Meanwhile, the Jets are like, y'all ain't really trying to bring this dude back into your house. Y'all already then moved on and remarried, to keep with the love analogy, right?
Oh, yeah, keep it.
Maybe the Jets.
Yesterday, you told me, boy, let me tell you something, man. I'm going to help you out. Because yesterday, you went from talking about, I mentioned divorce. You go from divorce to younger women doing things in the bedroom. Today, you introduce entanglements.
I mean, it just felt appropriate. Let's just keep it going. No, there's nothing I got to tell you. There's nothing I got to share.
Okay, all right.
There's nothing I got to share. This isn't about me. I'm just speaking. Honestly, this had nothing to do with me. Like, I'm speaking about stuff I don't even know. That's just stuff I've heard about, stuff I've read about, stuff I've seen in stand-up comedy routines.
That's good. That's good recovery. Great recovery.
That's all. Yeah.
Good job.
None that I know.
Good job. You're doing well.
So
you marked it good. You marked it good.
My guess, Hank Stram, my guess is that the holdup is not what does Rodgers want, is what do the Packers want and what do the Jets want to give up for a guy that one wants to get rid of and the other one badly wants. That's probably the stare down here. And Rodgers, meanwhile, is probably just relishing in the attention. I mean, it's like there's too much writing on the wall, or for that matter on the internet, for this not to be, for a decision to not have been made, or for Rodgers to have not let some people know which way he's at least leaning. Enough time has passed for Rodgers to have come to a determination that they don't want me, they're pushing me out, this team does, they got a young defense, they got a receiving core, this is where I want to be. I think the problem is the teams. I think it's the teams. That's my hunch. I am not plugged in on this particular situation. My hunch is there's a lot of moving parts. It's very complicated. There's a lot of money involved. There's draft capital involved. I don't know that the teams, even though the Jets, now one may say, but wait a second, why would the Packers give Aaron Rodgers permission to talk to the Jets if the trade parameters weren't already agreed upon, right? That's typically how that works, right? It's like you don't even take that step unless they've already come to an agreement. But as we've already established, there's no real market for Rodgers, and the Packers want him gone. So maybe, just maybe, and I'm just spitballing here. Maybe the Packers are like, hey man, as part of your process of figuring out what you want to do, go ahead and see other people. Go ahead. Here's a free pass. Here's a hall pass. Go ahead and talk to the Jets, see if you like them, see if you can work something out. And if you can, great. then we'll figure out the trade afterward. Maybe that's how it went down. Again, I'm spitballing. Maybe this is all a matter of public record. Maybe they've long past this process, and maybe this really just is Aaron Rodgers taking his sweet time, milking his time in the spotlight. But it would be way too clean. It'd be way too clean if this just happened just like that. It feels like there's a lot of opportunity for one of these teams to squeeze the other, either for money or for draft capital. Just a thought.
All of these things. It's a great thought. These are great thoughts, and the trade could be done in 5 minutes. Okay, there's so many rational things that you just said there. Smart things.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I tried. Broken clock is right
Good
twice
job.
a day, you know?
All right. So you have the Jets feeling like they have leverage, the Packers feeling like they have leverage. And, you got a replacement quarterback in place you drafted in Jordan Love. The Jets been looking for a Super Bowl appearance since Super Bowl III. They haven't even been back. They're just trying to get an appearance. And so they're excited to have Aaron Rodgers. Their owner came out and said, we're a quarterback away, essentially, even though you drafted a quarterback number 2 overall a couple of years ago. Got it. All of that makes sense. Mike, what I'm saying to you is, I'm still just kind of looking at that trap door. I keep looking at it, that trap door, where Aaron Rodgers gets everything that he wants. They say, yes, we will sign 9 receivers. We will keep 5 tight ends. We will have 14 offensive linemen, whatever you want. We'll add 8 more coaches to our staff, whatever you want. But in that trap door, Aaron Rodgers says, no, I don't want to do it. It just doesn't feel right. I can't do this. I can't come to New York. That's a possibility. And I
guess for him anything is.
Of course with him, I think that's the case with a lot of people. But for Aaron Rodgers, given how long he's been with Green Bay, was he drafted in 06? 2006. So 05. Was he drafted in 05? Okay. 05 to 2023. So 18 years in Wisconsin. And he has been able to do whatever he wants, and everybody accepts his quirks and all that stuff. And now all of a sudden, he didn't decide it. Keep this in mind. This is why it's in the back of my mind. This was not Aaron Rodgers' decision. It's like where, some guys say it's time for a change. Let me explore. You said it right. The Packers were the ones who said, "Oh, go ahead, see other people."
This feels mutual.
Hey, listen, but I want to make that.
He went into the dark place, but he went. Wait a second, man. Like just make a decision. Just make a decision. Like he went into the dark place, not knowing whether he was going to play or whether he was going to play for the Packers or not. So he actually don't act like he's just some innocent bystander. That's just a victim of ageism.
That had nothing to do with football.
No, he's not.
Hey, listen. If you go now, Michael Smith,
you get tired of the waffling.
You're the one who told me. You said when we first heard about the darkness retreat, you said, "Hey, sounds like a wonderful idea," and maybe we shouldn't be like making fun of it. Hey, what you do what you got to do.
I think I said that and I clowned it at the same time. But yeah, I did.
I know. Yeah, you did. You did. You clowned it on day 1, and then day 2.
All right. And
you thought about it some more.
I was in the mood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the darkness retreat. Take darkness out of it. All right. And just say it's a retreat. Aaron Rodgers just wanted to go on a retreat so he could clear his head. If I want to go on a retreat to clear my head, then I come out and you got the employer hovering there. You make a decision. Yeah, hey, man, I wasn't thinking about y'all. I was just taking some time for myself. But now you tell me as I emerge from this refreshing retreat that I got to do something. And I better make a decision fast.
Because enough.
Oh, okay.
Enough's enough.
So my mental mental health doesn't really matter. Oh,
we gotta do this every
so it doesn't
year.
Really matter.
We gotta do. I mean, that wasn't like we went through this last year. You gotta do. It's an annual thing.
I gotta do it every year.
It's an annual thing. The last guy held us hostage. Now you're keeping with that great Packers tradition of quarterbacks holding people hostage. No, thank you, Aaron. Hurry this shit up.
Ain't no annual. It's quarterly. Damn it.
We ain't got all day.
It's quarterly.
Go to break. All right, we're done. Go to break.
And you know what? It's quarterly. And guess who understands that? My younger woman. She knows. She understands.
Yo, I'm telling you, legal tampering is so much fun till it should be illegal. Like, what a wild couple of days. Led by the person who may have the pole position when it comes to the Executive of the Year race. That's before the season's even started. Now, as we welcome in our brothers from another, Jim Trotter and Mike Jones. Jim, I know you don't like the offseason Super Bowl, and I know that people get too carried away with the transactions. Nerds like me love the transactions and the trades and the signings, and none of that stuff matters come January. I get it, but just have a little fun in this instance. Nice T-shirt, by the way. Has anybody had a better offseason between trading the number 1 pick to Carolina and now adding the likes of Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards at linebackers? Anybody had a better start to the offseason than one Ryan Poles in Chicago?
See, Mike, it's wrong for you to set me up that way, man. You know, as the old guy of the group, I bring history and I bring perspective. So, yes, you are correct. Ryan Poles has had a tremendous start to this free agency period. But now I must remind you of some numbers. Of the teams that have spent the most in free agency over the last 5 years, they have increased their win total by an average of 5 victories, right? Which sounds great. Here's the problem. Of those 5 teams, they have a grand total of 1 playoff victory in the year that they did all that spending.
Jacksonville last year, right?
Here's the other, and they overcame a 27-0 deficit, right?
Right.
Here's
and
the other
always
problem.
Spending. What's the other problem?
True. The other problem is that the year after they do that spending, the past 4, we're not including Jacksonville because we don't know yet, but the previous 4 to that all had losing or non-winning records. So here's my point. Why do I bring this up? History has shown us that Super Bowl champions are built from homegrown talent for the most part, and teams that use free agency to supplement, not to bring in big name, big money guys. So since 2000, 19 Super Bowl champions have basically been homegrown teams for the most part, or they used a trade to acquire someone to put them over the top. The 4 teams that were not homegrown, those were teams that went out and got quarterbacks in free agency or made a trade for an elite quarterback. So who am I talking about? Peyton Manning with the Broncos, Tom Brady with the Bucks, Matthew Stafford with the Rams, and then Nick Foles also signed a free agent deal with Philadelphia the year they won it.
Right.
So that is what I'm saying to you. So I applaud Ryan for the moves that he has made and whatnot, but history has not been kind to teams that go out and spend a lot of money in free agency early on.
So the moral of the story is, next time I'm starting with you, Mike Jones. Mike Jones did an awesome article on The Athletic grading the free agent moves. Mike Jones, who is your biggest winner? Damn you, Jim Trotter. Who is your biggest winner so far in free agency, in this free agent frenzy? Who's your biggest winner?
Because we have to do this exercise where we can't even wait to let and see this stuff play out, and we've got to decide who wins in real time.
Right now,
I would have to say Chicago, but I like what he's done because he's gotten more draft picks. He's really trying to surround, Justin Fields with talent on offense, with the trade, getting DJ Moore. He's getting defensive guys because they were among the worst in the league as far as yards and points allowed. So this is great. On paper, it looks great. But as Lord Trotter pointed out, and being from the DC area, how many years did Washington win the offseason Super Bowl and spend all that money, and they never? So anytime I see teams go ham in free agency, you're just kind of like, well, we'll see. These grades look good right now, but it always takes some time, and it's never quite as good as it seems that it's going to be.
Man, like both of y'all need to Mike Jones and Jim Trotter, both of y'all need to lively up yourselves. Come on and get into the spirit. Come on now, get into the spirit. You see what I did there, Mike Smith? Look, okay. How about this? Let's play this game. Number 1 pick has been moved. Carolina Panthers have it. Trotter and Jones, tell me who, if you were Carolina, if you were Frank Reich and his illustrious staff there, Jim Caldwell and others, who would you take with that number 1 pick? What would you do?
Go ahead, Mike Jones.
I would go with Bryce Young. As far as a skill set, he seems, and I know that he's not the biggest guy, but you have a lot of creative minds in your room right there with Frank Reich and Jim Caldwell and Thomas Brown. And again, if you can surround this kid, with weapons, with a great, strong run game, which they want to do. Deuce Daly is also on that staff. I think that you are going to be able to position yourselves for success. Now, again, you look at some of these guys that are coming out, Stroud, Anthony down in Florida, and they all have, Anthony Richardson's down in Florida. They all have, something to offer, but, I think that Bryce Young probably has the highest ceiling. That's the guy that you take, but you go out and I would get a veteran, maybe Jacoby Brissett. So that way you have somebody who you can lean on, that he can learn from if he's not quite ready, because it does take time. And you do have to surround this kid with weapons, with a strong defense, strong run game, if you want the return on your investment.
Look, if I were Carolina, the player that I would have taken would have been Lamar Jackson for a lot cheaper than what I'm paying out in terms of draft capital to move up to the number 1 spot. I get a 26-year-old quarterback, former unanimous MVP in the prime of his career, and all it's going to cost me is 2 number 1s and then the money. And David Tepper has enough money to spend on a player, so that shouldn't be a concern. So from my standpoint, I kind of didn't understand this from Carolina's viewpoint, when it's amazing to me how teams are so willing to go with the unknown over the proven. Look, Bryce Young may turn out to be the second coming. And everything I hear from everyone I've talked to, they rave about him, they love him, all of that. But I know what Lamar Jackson is. I don't know what Bryce Young is. I don't know what Anthony Richardson is. I don't know what C.J. Stroud is. I don't know what Will Levis is. They may all turn out to be great, but I don't know that. So why are we so averse to taking the known over the unknown, when the known has been tremendous in the time that he has played? 4th in wins since he came into the league. Again, a former unanimous MVP. I'm just saying, having said that,
in his prime.
Absolutely. And having said that, if I'm in the situation now that Carolina is in, I agree with Mike Jones. Everyone I've talked to, they love Bryce Young. I remember talking to a quarterback coach who I respect greatly, offensive coordinator, former quarterbacks coach, during the season. This is before we even got to this point. And I'm watching Bryce Young on television on a Saturday, and I texted him and I said, hey, is this guy legit? I'm like, his size and whatnot, it really concerns me and whatnot. He said, no, he can sling it. And he said, I've known him since high school. He's the real deal. So from that standpoint, I would say if you surround him with the right people and you can protect him, I think he's the guy.
I had an OC at the Combine tell me that Young could be an offensive coordinator tomorrow. He's that smart, and he processes things that well. But I want to go back to free agency, though. But you mentioned Lamar Jackson. Let Lamar tell it. We don't know what we don't know. He's been busy on the Twitter today when it comes to, I guess, sort of setting the record straight and letting everybody know, don't believe everything you hear or read from us so-called insiders. Mike, what is your read? Because now teams can start to talk to Lamar tomorrow if they so choose. What is your read as to where this Lamar Jackson situation may go this week, if it goes anywhere?
It is a frustrating thing to watch. You can feel Lamar's frustration. You talk to a lot of people around the league, and they have no doubt that these owners have all made up their mind that they are not going to give him the fully guaranteed deal. They are not going to continue along the path that the Browns set when they gave that to Deshaun Watson. And so you want to see it play out favorably for Lamar, just because of the fact of, like, as Trotter just said, he's got the body of work. He's done everything. I wouldn't be surprised if we wind up seeing him in Baltimore again on, the franchise tag. Now, I do wonder, though, everybody came out so quickly saying not interested, not interested, not interested, or not interested, which is interesting. there's somebody that's out there who's lying. And then, maybe because we don't have an agent in the mix right here, we're not getting that leaked out there that so-and-so is reaching out or so-and-so has some interest right there. It'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. I hope for Lamar's sake that he gets what he wants and he can say, hey, I did it my way, and he goes somewhere that really values him. And that he goes, but I just don't know. And I'm not too hopeful because I know these owners, they play by their rules. And that's why I won't be surprised if he just doesn't get what he wants and he has to play on the tag.
Oh, just real quick on Lamar. What is also fascinating, not only that they all lined up to say we're not interested, especially when some of them were turning over every rock possible for a quarterback last year, looking at you, Washington, looking at you, Carolina, as you mentioned, Jim.
Without even talking to him. Because,
okay, maybe he only wants a fully guaranteed contract from the team for whom he was unanimous MVP. Maybe if you whisper the right sweet nothings in his ear as a new team, maybe he's like, oh, you know what? Okay, I'll make an exception, but I ain't making an exception for Baltimore. I want to go and I want to change the scenery. I want to go to somebody that maybe comes up with a creative contract that maybe the Ravens wouldn't even consider. To not even engage with him is fascinating. But moving on from Lamar real quick, if we can, if you don't mind. Another guy whose market is going to be fascinating is Austin Ekeler, guys. Because, Jim, Austin Ekeler has now been granted permission to seek a trade. It feels like to me, as good as Austin Ekeler is and has been these last couple of years, that's the wrong position in the wrong year between the amount of running backs who are already free agents and this draft class of running backs to get not only a team to pony up the draft capital to the Chargers, but also to give him the kind of contract he's probably expecting. As good as he is, that position is just so volatile. Does Austin Ekeler have much of a market, Jim?
Yeah, here's the thing. Everything you said is true, but I would add one thing to this conversation. So if I have a young quarterback, I want sort of a safety net for him, right? Sort of an outlet. And if you look at these PFF numbers on Austin Ekeler since 2017.
Jim brought the receipts today.
His PFF grade is second.
I love it.
His passer rating when target, second. His yards per route run, second. First downs and touchdowns, third. Yards, third. Receptions, third. Targets, third. Routes run, fifth. So I'm saying if I have a young quarterback and I need a complement, let's say, to a workhorse, a ground guy, Austin Ekeler is a guy I want. Now, if it's true that he's seeking some $12 million a year or whatever, he's not going to find that on the open market. We know that. But I'm saying if I have a club and I need an impact player in terms of at that position, particularly in the pass game, that is a guy I want on my team.
I'm not doubting that he's a great player. Oh, go ahead, Mike. I'm not saying he's not a great player. I'm just saying running backs are a dime a dozen. That's all.
But they're not. But they're not. No, they're not. See, I disagree. I was going to say I disagree with you. When you put that in your feed, I was like, no, I disagree with Mike because not just because Austin Ekeler came on the show and was great and talked to your son Mason and said, Mason, you should have drafted me.
He did.
You should have drafted me on your fantasy team.
I should have remembered that before I said that stuff. You're right.
But I was saying this about. But Ekeler, it's the same thing Jim was saying about quarterbacks. We can apply it to running backs too. Yeah, I know this is a position where we cycle in and out of running backs. A great running back today is on somebody's scrap heap tomorrow. But you look at how productive he's been at an incredible rate. I mean, 107 catches last year. I know it wasn't for a lot of yards, but 107 catches. Right. Then he was able to run the ball, gets into the end zone. I saw a stat, and you guys have seen it too. I love this. He and Hall of Famer Lenny Moore are the only two running backs with 25 touchdowns through their first 6 years. Like the only two, and 25 receiving and rushing touchdowns total in their first 6 years in football. That's a great stat. He's an incredibly productive player, and I think he would get it. I would give him the money.
So
I would.
I would ask. Okay, but why won't the team for whose young quarterback? He's been this safety net, Mike Jones. Why won't the Chargers? Let's just start with that. Forget about the open market. Why won't the Chargers pay the guy?
Because they got cap problems.
They do. They're in a situation where they can't take care of him. They have needs they have to fill. and they are like, okay, well, you know, we're not going to give you what you want, so we've got to try to get something for you and get the cap relief. But I do think that there are teams that are out there that, I mean, we saw the 49ers be very aggressive in going after Christian McCaffrey. A running back nowadays who can also not just help you in the run game, but also help you in the pass game. Think of a team. Look at Buffalo. They could not run to save their life. They could have used somebody like Austin Ekeler in the playoffs because, you know, I think there will be teams that are close. Yes, we talked about maybe a young quarterback, but there are other teams that are close that need him to help them in a dimension, and will find a way to get it done. Yeah, will it be for $12 million? Probably not, but it might be close, you know. But the thing is if it's going to give them the cap relief, they'll pull the trigger, and somebody will actually add him and help them get to the winning spot.
Don't get me wrong. Listen, you know I'm a fantasy football nerd. Don't get me wrong. You know I love me some Austin Ekeler. I'm not saying the dude's going to be unemployed. I'm simply saying for the kind of contract he wants and draft capital that the Chargers will probably expect, I just don't know that many teams are going to be lining up, Jim, is all I'm saying. As good a player as he is.
Yeah. No, I feel you. But to answer your question about why the Chargers won't do this, won't pay him, there's a guy named Justin Herbert there right now that they are likely going to have to extend before the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, before the start of next season. So that's where all their money's going right now. And so I can see why they don't want to pay him that kind of money, knowing what they've got to fork over for him, and knowing, look, teams are always trying to look a year or two ahead of what's coming. For the Chargers, they got some issues beyond this year. For instance, their wide receiver core after this year. Mike Williams' deal that they gave last year, a 2-year, $40 million deal, he's up after this year. Keenan Allen is another year older, beyond 30. His money, they're going to have to do something at that wide receiver position in all likelihood next year in terms of what it's going to cost them to potentially bring in a number one. So there are things they are looking ahead to as well that they have to deal with when you start talking about paying a running back that kind of money.
Eagles just signed Rashad Penny, for example. I hear y'all. Y'all are absolutely right in everything y'all are saying. It's just this position, man. It's just crazy. And the current landscape, it's crazy how many quality guys are on the market and available, veteran guys, and this draft class is supposedly pretty damn deep at running back as well. But look, I'm an Austin Ekeler fan. I hope he does well. I'm also a DeMeco Ryans fan. And he got Jimmy Ward to come down to Houston, to follow him from San Francisco to Houston. Wondering, I know you wrote about it recently, Mike Jones, but wondering how you see the Texans, because we talked about such dysfunction around that organization for the last several years, whether it's the management level, ownership, management, head coach, player level, just constant turmoil and drama and dysfunction at every level. But do you see this as potentially with DeMeco Ryans being there, Mike Jones, as something like a Pied Piper type situation where, you know, no state income tax in Houston? Does he bring a credibility to this organization, and can he succeed where others failed in spite of everything in Houston?
I hope so. I want to see him succeed. But again, the track record's really bad. And I mean, even just this week, they got hit for, you know, messing with the salary cap with Deshaun Watson and paying, benefits for him. And so they got docked a 5th round draft pick. This franchise just doesn't have a strong record. Now, the good thing for DeMeco Ryans is they don't see him as just a regular black coach. They see him as a former star of their franchise. So he's going to get more time. I think it was a 6-year deal that he got. And so they're letting him, and Caserio needs this to work out because, this is year 3 for him. If he can get the pieces in place, yes, that's going to help him, but they still have big questions at quarterback. So we'll see what they do in the draft. I want to see it work out. But again, when you see the way that they treated their coaches the last several years with David Culley, with Lovie Smith, I don't have a whole lot of confidence that even as talented as he is, that he can just be the cure-all for a franchise that hasn't treated people right, because it always comes back and bites you.
And whatever quarterback they got, I'm sorry, I was going to say they got Robert Woods as well as Noah Brown at wide receiver, and whatever quarterback they bring in there, Jim.
Yeah, I'll say this to you about DeMeco Ryans. I think I know him fairly well. I've spent time with him, and he's a man of tremendous character and whatnot. I don't believe he would have taken this job without some assurances as to some type of input or influence he is going to have. Their organization, as Mike says, no question has been dysfunctional of late. No question. That starts from the ownership on down. And to do what they did to David Culley, to do what they did with Lovie Smith, I mean, it was in some ways degrading to these men who are both men of character. But I'll say this to you, if we can set aside for a minute the dysfunction, this organization is set up to potentially build for success. When you talk about having the second pick in the draft, when you're talking about having at least 11 draft picks this year prior to one being docked and whatnot, and knowing that DeMeco has a 6-year contract, there is a chance to build something in his vision. So again, he has not said this to me. I don't know this, but I know the man, and I believe that the man would have gotten some assurances before he took this job, and therefore I am one who believes that DeMeco Ryans will build this into something that will be successful, regardless of the dysfunction that has gone on in that franchise.
And you know, and I did ask him about that. He did.
Go ahead.
He did. He at the combine. I asked him. He said, "Like, I understand the history, but I can't worry about the past. I got to worry about right now." Yeah. But Nick Caserio's draft record is not good. There's been a lot of reaches, and so that's why I got some concerns for him.
From one former Patriot, or two, with Dave Ziegler as well, to Josh McDaniels. Yeah. What do you, I listen? Well, okay. I even gonna ask the question. Why do Jacoby Myers, Jimmy Garoppolo, and trading Darren Waller today to the Giants? What are you wooing about there, Jim, when it comes to Josh McDaniels? Before we let you go.
For me, we have seen a kinder, gentler Josh McDaniels since he got to Las Vegas, right? And everything is the accountability and ownership of what went on when he was in Denver and this and that. But man, behind that nicer, gentler guy, he is making some gangster moves in terms of what he is doing to players and how he's doing them. I mean, what went on with Derek Carr at the end of last year to where he wasn't even around the building for the final few weeks? And now at the combine to talk up Darren Waller and about what he expected from him this year and how high he was on the year that Darren Waller was going to have with the Raiders this year and whatnot, to now send him off for a third-round pick right after he gets married to a WNBA player who plays in Vegas.
Oh, man. I didn't know all of that.
You know?
Oh, man. I didn't realize all of that. Man.
Yeah, it's, so look, I like Josh. I'm hoping the best for him, but there's a lot of work to be done in that organization. And I just keep saying, how many complete rebuilds and teardowns can they go through? Going back to Reggie McKenzie when he took over, going on to John Gruden and what he did, and now Josh McDaniels and what he's doing. It's like at some point you would say there has to be a bit of stability, but there's just a lot of uncertainty with that team, and particularly when you're putting all your money into a quarterback. As much as I love Jimmy G as a person and whatnot, who just has not been able to stay healthy the majority of his career.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, but there's a lot of desperation. You can feel that desperation there,
That's right.
I mean,
urgent. Well, yeah. Or desperation, or look, hey, if he's going to let me spend the money, if he's going to let me do it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And that's what he's doing. He's spending Mark Davis's money. Not that he's got a ton of it, but whatever is available to him, he's spending it.
Absolutely.
All right, fellas. We appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Thank you. Thanks for raining
guys.
on our
Appreciate
parade,
you.
Jim. We're going to go back to enjoying the offseason Super Bowl. Thank you so much.
So, Mike, I don't want to misspeak. You have a series, right? You have a series, the He Gets It, the Gets It series. Is that a series that you do?
Interview series, yeah. Yep.
An interview series. I've got a candidate for you if you're continuing to do it. And you should talk with now former Patriot Devin McCourty. Devin McCourty retired over the weekend. He played 13 seasons with the Patriots, and a couple of things stand out to me. Okay. 13 seasons, Mike. He was a captain for 12 of the 13. Ooh, the only year he wasn't a captain
it's hard to do.
was his first year. And here's another one. I said this to Gary Carter last week. I had to read it a couple of times. I said, this can't be right, but you get used to, playoff performance after playoff performance, that these numbers add up. Devin McCourty has the most playoff games played of any defensive back in NFL history. Did you know that?
Is that right?
Yeah, I was like, what? What? Yeah, he played in 24 playoff games. But see, once again, you see a team with nine Super Bowl appearances since 2000, since 2001, And he was playing for 13 years. They were always good.
Yeah.
They were always in championship contention. It stacks up.
Yeah.
So, so 24 playoff games for him. But the thing that stands out to me about Devin McCourty, other than the fact that he put a thank you on 37 billboards across New England on his way out. Thank you.
Dope.
37.
That's dope.
37.
Across New England.
37
that's dope.
Across New England.
Across 6 states. That's dope.
Yes.
Yeah.
But more than that is this. Devin McCourty, he was familiar at the stadium and he was familiar at the state house too. Because he was and is a social justice warrior. He would look at laws, as King said, unjust laws. We're going to look at these unjust laws and try to dismantle them or rewire them, reframe them so they speak for everybody, they're equitable. That was what he was all about. And he was able to get people with very different political positions to come together over the humanity in laws. You know, that's hard to do. So I know McCourty, a lot of people have said about him, his brother does a great job on NFL Network with Good Morning Football, Jason, his twin brother.
Yeah.
Some people have said McCourty he's got a career in the media. I think he's got a career in politics too. It's kind of politician.
Feels like he's got a career whatever he wants to have a career in, from what it sounds like.
Absolutely. So speaking of defensive backs, I know you had this in your feed yesterday, Mike. You were very optimistic, a little more optimistic than I would have been, than I am, talking about what Jalen Ramsey's going to do with the Dolphins and Ramsey and Howard. It's going to be Miami Vice.
Miami Vice.
I know.
You know.
Yeah, great line. Great line.
You know.
But I don't know. I don't know if he still has it like he used to. Jalen Ramsey.
Well, I mean, listen.
I mean, big name.
So, the price was right. Is why I felt this way. And the role. So, listen. When we talked about Jalen Ramsey a couple of weeks ago, and by the way, I love what you had to say about Devin McCourty, and I'll just a quick postscript on Devin McCourty. It goes back to what we were talking about the offseason Super Bowl spending. Winners don't often turn out to be champions because what you can't buy and what you can't predict a lot of times is how somebody's going to fit and who those glue guys are going to be. And McCourty was that glue guy. But back to Jalen Ramsey. He's not the Jalen Ramsey that he was in Jacksonville, or at least in my opinion, and I don't think I'm in the minority on that he was in Jacksonville or that he was when he first got to the Rams. Maybe a change of scenery will do him good. He can still play. But Jalen Ramsey, opposite Xavier Howard, that has a nice ring to it. Maybe not a ring, maybe not another ring, but a nice ring to it because it's like now you're asking them to be, not to be the guy, but now you could be the guy next to the guy, or sometimes the guy. You know, so I like the fit. That's why I got excited about it. And for a third round pick. So I think he's energized. I think he's motivated. I think he's got that chip on his shoulder. Because a lot of these dudes, like he was saying, like, you know, I think his initial tweet was God answers prayers, which is true. And he was talking about how prayers, you know, dreams do come true. Something to the effect that he wanted out of LA himself and to get to go back home to Florida, right?
Okay.
So, but you know how they spin it. He's gonna spin it as, you know, they doubted me, they didn't want me, they discarded me. There you go. I prayed specifically for this for a month. Now it's happening. So, like, yeah, he wanted it, but he's also gonna spin it like they didn't want me no more. They thought I was washed. Yada yada yada. So now he goes down there motivated to have a partner in crime like an Xavier Howard. I love that for Miami. Does that catapult them? Oh, and I also love them getting Mike White. There's another team. You know what? Forget Jim Trotter. I'm gonna get excited about free agent signings.
Mike White.
Let me tell you something about Mike White. You got to touch the hem of Mike White's garment. You got to touch the hem of Mike White's garment to understand. Like, Mike White's teammates love Mike White. And so Tua, who we know has an availability issue. Why? Because of Zach Wilson? Because of your boy Zach Wilson? Don't make no
Zach
Wilson joke.
That's my
you
boy.
told me Zach
That's
Wilson was
my boy.
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, that's my boy.
So you don't get to make a Zach Wilson joke.
Yeah, yeah.
You're disqualified for making Zach Wilson joke.
We both.
Because you wanted.
We both represent smart tech. We both represent smart tech. That's my boy.
This was you on Zach Wilson. This was you on. You was hanging. You was hanging over Zach Wilson's. You know what? You was hanging. It's like that's what you were.
I'm still there. I haven't given up on Zach. His ship's gonna come in one day. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.